Hello and welcome to Act on Campus podcast / vidcast number 11. We're up to the 7th of May 2010. You got your show host and Act on Campus president Rick Giles here, discussing today, as before, free market solutions versus centralised ones. Now, last time we were talking about disaster scenarios. This time I'm going to generalise things a little bit more with an article from a fellow called Hayek, an economist. It's from 1945. It's called The Use of Knowledge in Society, one of the most important essays ever written, and it seems quite simple and obvious, but hell, it's a landmark. So, how does Hayek start out? And I'm just going to try to crib the whole article and try and make it into a vidcast that covers about 10 minutes if I can, without losing too much, and particularly without losing too much of your attention if I can possibly manage it. So, okay, we want a social system, right? We want a rational economic order that works, centralised or not. It's just, we want one that works. Now, start with the problem or the solution set that involves having lots of information. You know what people's wants, desires, needs, resources, wealth, all their preferences are. You know all that in one basket. Okay, if you know that, then go ahead and figure it out. Be the dictator. It's a logical problem. Come up with your logical solution. You're conducting a musical orchestra. You can have a shoe. You can have a tree. You can have an extra mortgage. You better put some more fuel in your car. You're allowed a camera. You're allowed elective surgery. You are going to jail. You are not. You can have a pineapple and you can go to school. You know, they can decide for people what they're going to do, whether they can get married, whether they can wear or smoke, or, you know, all of these things become logical problems. And libertarians, you know, credit where credit's due. It's not particularly that we think that the central planners are stupid, that they don't have the processing ability to figure out what to do with people if they knew all of those things. The premise of this article that I'm running through in my podcast from Hayek isn't that they're stupid, although John Key, you're not nearly smart enough to handle this, bro. It's that they don't have the information. They don't have that bundle of information in the first place. Information, the knowledge of society, is not centralised. It never was. It never could be. It's completely dispersed among the different trades, the different people from different walks of life, the students, the graffiti artists, the lawyers, the pilots, the ship commanders, the military, the babies, the children, the elderly, men and women. It's everywhere. As many people as there are in the economy's population, that's how many different preferences and abilities and sets of knowledge that there are. No one person is in possession of that, nor could they be. It's not possible. So nobody can replicate the specialised or localised knowledge, scientific, trade knowledge, skill knowledge, institutional knowledge, just happenstance knowledge or otherwise, that individuals in even New Zealand, but anywhere, can't decide for you. If your cell phone's too tired and needs replacing, if your car or your tractor needs to go, if you should open or close an office. Imagine the politicians deciding those sorts of things. Sadly, they do try and decide those sorts of things. Decide for us whether it's time to rotate crops, whether we need to expand our warehouse because it's too big, too little, whatever. Whether it's time to get more stock, change stock, what to set prices at. All of this information, all of these knowledgeable things, how much space you've got in your factory, whether it's time to hire more staff or upskill them. It's way too complex for anyone to even have a handle on, let alone to choose among. So what's the best way of using knowledge in society? It has to be that we plan it, yeah, but it has to be that we do it in a decentralised sort of a way. So we have a price system, a non-creationist solution. So if you are the sort of person, for argument's sake, who is against creationism and likes evolution, likes Darwin, likes Dawkins or Hitchens, but you don't think that you need a god, a creator, to make the world go round and spin on its axis, you should love this, because it's the same thing applied to economics. We libertarians simply believe that we don't need the Queen of England, John Key, Barack Obama, or anyone in between, Bob Parker. Don't need you to tell us how to run our lives, to organise society. Not just for those 90% of things that we already run privately, bought and paid for privately, chosen privately. But when it comes to all of these choices, individuals can run things better on their own. And that's their Western tradition too, right? That's where a lot of countries in the East don't work out quite so well, because they try and centralise things. It doesn't work. You can't run a whole country from one big high ivory tower pretending to know best for everyone. It simply cannot be done. You don't have the info. Oh, the phone would ring now. Sorry, missed a telephone call there. So, I was in the middle of saying that there are unintended consequences to doing all these things. The ministers up there in the beehive tossing out legislation every day, every week for years and years. They are in fact not in possession of all of this knowledge. They don't know how it's going to affect us generally. And they're probably doing a whole lot more damage even if they intend to do well. So don't go thinking that politicians are some sort of super-brained guys who have got all the answers. They can't. They don't. And so how do we do it? What is this price system you speak of, libertarian man? How, indeed, can the world work if the Queen, Barack Obama, and John Key aren't teaming up to make it work, making the world spin on its axis? Well, time to do a little bit of reading from this article, and we're going to talk about the price system, and you'll soon get the hang of it. Quote, "It is worth contemplating for a moment a very simple and commonplace instance of the action of the price system to see what precisely it accomplishes. Assume that somewhere in the world a new opportunity for the use of some raw material, say tin, has arisen, or that one of the sources of supply of tin has been eliminated. It doesn't matter for our purposes, and it is significant that it does not matter which of these two causes has made tin more scarce. All that users of tin need to know is that some of the tin they used to consume is now more profitably employed elsewhere, and that, in consequence, they must economize tin. The effect will rapidly spread throughout the whole economic system and influence not only all of the users of tin, but also those of its substitutes and the substitutes of these substitutes, the supply of all the things made of tin and their substitutes too, and so on. And all of this without the great majority of those instrumental in bringing about these substitutions knowing anything at all about the original cause of these changes. This brings about a solution which might have been arrived at by one single mind possessing, all of the information, which is in fact dispersed among all the people involved in the process." So I read that passage to try and show how people adapt without even knowing what they're doing. It just happens automatically. People adapt, they substitute, they change the prices, they find new ways of doing old operations without the need for central control. This is how the price system works. It works terribly well, and as Hayek comments on the next page, "I'm convinced that if it were the result of deliberate human design, and if the people guided by the price changes understood that their decisions have significance far beyond their immediate aim, this mechanism would have been acclaimed as one of the greatest triumphs of the human mind." And it is. It's one of the most amazing things that humans ever did, was come up with this price signals, the price system, the economic system that we work in New Zealand 90% of the time, choosing for ourselves, picking things out without the need of central planning, which can never nearly rival its power and efficiency. If some one individual had come up with this, written a book, and convinced us all to do it, I don't know, in 1790 or something like that, we would have statues to him everywhere. We would have, I don't know, John Smith Day or whatever. He would be a national hero, but no one person did come up with it, kind of stumbled along into it as a society. Historically, it's a very interesting story about how this happened, and also you can see the difference in our society compared to other societies that don't have it. So, yeah, that's the price system. It takes care of itself. Strange to say, people do, from their own self-interest, try and suss this sort of thing out, and we come up with wonderful results and brilliant distributions without having to centrally plan. And this is the sort of thinking, the free market thinking, that I want to apply to our problems. Go ahead and pick holes in it and bring them to me and we'll have a talk about it. But climate change is just one of the many things that we can contemplate in this way, solving our problems without having to get stuck into them with the force stick, without central command. Alright, I'm out of time. Thank you for listening. Rick out. Stop capture.